Last week's courtroom dramas with Paul Manafort and Michael Cohen having no real effect on the president's job approval. And this is according to a new Wall Street Journal poll showing support for the president dipping only 2 percentage points from just before the Manafort and Cohen news. That's within the poll's 4-point margin of error. Madison Jacinto, as well as who's a member of the Trump 2020 Advisory Board, sorry if I pronounced your last name wrong, and Jason Altmaier, a former Democratic congressman from Pennsylvania, is here with us now. I want to first start about those stats. You had about 600 people that were polled. Jason, this is directed towards you. You had a 44% approval rating with Trump. How is it that you have these voters, these registered voters, that continue their support of the president despite any negative headlines, any negative news? Why do you think that is?
Well, there's a couple of things to work with there. One is that number is below 50%, which if you want to win an election, generally speaking, you would need to get above 50% in most cases. But more importantly, look, the president's base is going to support him. They've proven that. There have been numerous times in the past, going back into 2016, when conventional wisdom would have been for any other candidate, the support would have plummeted. That has not been the case with the president.
And Madison, since we're talking about this poll right now, there's some other details just about the voters. Again, 600 registered voters who did the poll. About 50% of them believe that Democrats are going to move into Congress. So what are your thoughts heading into the midterms, given these results and all the comments going back and forth with Dems taking over this blue wave? What do you think?
You know, I don't know if you looked at the polls in 2016, but they were wildly inaccurate. I think they are inaccurate when it comes to that 50% number. I don't think the Democrats have a chance to have a blue wave in November. I think we will hold the House, we will hold the Senate, and I think the president's doing a fabulous job. And I don't think that the American people relate Cohen's plea or Manafort indictment and his ultimate, charges last week as a reflection of the president's job. And as we've seen with those polls, again, I don't really think the polls are accurate, but I talk to people here in Cleveland. They're happy about the job the president's done, and they don't care about those things.
If they don't care about it, but you have these headlines and you have bank fraud involved and that possibly could involve the president.
And the president isn't being charged with bank fraud, so I think that's irrelevant.
So then you're just saying polls in general. You've said that you're not a fan of them, or you don't find them as accurate?
I'm not a big fan of the polls.
Okay.
No.
And Jason, I want to switch just tone right now and talk about this Axios report coming out. There was an email that was floating around of a GOP list of likely probes. And some of the probes that could potentially be on this list, and these are Republicans preparing for the worst, are President Trump's tax returns, or Trump's firing of U.S. attorneys, or James Comey's firing, or even the travel ban. What do you think, or what do you make of the fact that this type of research and investigation, that prepping for the worst, is floating around? What's your take on that in response to Republicans?
It's a pretty long list. It's important to remember that list was put out by Republicans who are currently in the majority in Congress, and apparently the Republicans feel like there's a lot to work with there. And yes, if the Democrats retake Congress, I have no doubt in my mind that there are going to be investigations into a lot of things that are on that Axios list. There's a few things that are kind of off the wall, but most of the things that were on that list are legitimate avenues for the Congress to explore, and I would expect the Democrats to do just that if they retake control.
Thank you. And isn't it best to be prepared for the worst? Thank you very much, Madison and Jason.